Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi. Kesubos Lamed Beis, and we are holding on Lamed Aleph Amud Beis, 5 lines from the bottom of the Amud. So let's refer back to the Mishnah where we learned that Habo alachos v'alachos ave v'chulu. A fellow interacts physically, ba'oinus or pitoi, forced interaction, or by way of seduction, even if the Isha was his erva, a relative, in which case kares is generated by that interaction. Still, he must pay up. We apply the knas. We penalize him financially as well. Is that so? V'raminu. We have a kasha. There's a Mishnah in Meseches Makos which teaches us Elohin Alekin. In the following cases, we apply malchus to the perpetrator. Bezdin give him the 39 lashes. Habalachos aviv. He interacts with her sister, with his father's sister. Valachos imay, his mother's sister. Valachos ishte, his wife's sister. Valeshes achiv, his brother's wife. Valeshes achi aviv, his father's brother's wife. Valanida, in all these cases. Should the Edom warn him against doing this act, for it would lead to malchus, he defies their warning, he commits the act, he gets malchus from Bezdin. What's the problem? V'kaimelan, we know this for a fact, a general halacha, de'ena loika u'mishalam. If a fellow does one masa, which has 2 elements to it, it triggers a chiv malchus, number 1, and a chiv tashlumin. It generates some sort of financial obligation as well. What happens? We don't double penalize him. We don't give him malchus and make him pay. Rather, he pays and he doesn't do the malchus. The Mishnah in Meseches Makos tells us, by way of an interaction with a relative, malchus is generated. If so, how do we say in our Mishnah that this type of experience generates knas? We penalize him financially as well. You can't do that. You can't give him both punishments. Amar Ula loy kasha. Says Ula, you're right. Ideally, he would just pay up. If so, why does the Mishnah in Meseches Makos speak about this fellow getting malchus? The answer is payment is not relevant in that case. You know why? In order to be chayiv knas, he has to conform to certain guidelines. It needs to be a nara. It needs to be an adult girl from 12 till about 12 and a half. She has to fit the bill. So our Mishnah kan b'achos nara. We're speaking about a sister as a nara, and therefore he has to pay the knas. And that absolves him from the malchus. But the Mishnah over there, which speaks about this fellow getting malchus, she's already beyond. She's already past the age of a nara. She's already begeris, full-fledged adult. In that case, there's no knas. Knas is specific to a nara. Okay, there's no knas, there's no payment. Give him malchus. The kasha is, Nami, even if she's an older sister, true, there's no 50 shekalim, the standard knas fare. But there are potentially other financial liabilities. He embarrassed her. He lowers her value. Ha'ika baishus pagam. What about embarrassment? What about pagam? The fact that he made her less in value. Rashi says you praise her, so to speak, as though she would be a shifcha sold in the market, and downgrading her from a besula to a bu'ula has an effect on her value. So in any case, in any situation, there is monetary liabilities which would exempt you from malchus. Answer is, let's find a case where there is no baishus, there's no embarrassment, there is no pagam, there's no lowering of value. Peshaita. He got involved with an isha who's deranged. She has no baishus, and nobody's going to buy her on the market, so those liabilities don't exist. Okay, so there's no chiyuv moment, Malchus kicks in. What about the discomfort that he caused her by way of this experience? He has to pay for that. Tsar, right? B'mefuta. She was seduced. He convinced her until she consented. So in that case, there's no tsar. So bottom line is, there's no payment at all, so there is Malchus. That's the case in the Gemara in Makkas. Now that you've come up with the concept of a mefuta, afilu teimachese nara. So now we can say that the Mishnah Mesechas Makkas, which applies Malchus and not Knas, perhaps is speaking even better a nara girl who's potentially a candidate for Knas, but we're speaking about a case where there is no payment necessary. Be a soima. First of all, she's an orphan, in which case any potential monetary payments would go to her instead of her father, which is typical. Typically it goes to the father. She has no father. It would go to her. Umefuta, and on top of that, she was seduced, so in which case she can't claim anything. If it goes to her father, and even by mefuta you can say pay up, but if the chiyuv mammon would be directed directly to her, and she's the one who consented to the act, as she says, she's meichel, achuli achla gabei, she sort of relinquished her rights to collect on this experience. Okay, bottom line is we had a kash. Our Mishnah speaks about monetary payment to a fellow who got involved with his relative. The Mishnah Mesechas Makkas says, you give it Malchus. Well, if he's meant to pay, why would he get Malchus? You don't do both. Answer is, the Mishnah in Makkas is speaking where there is no monetary obligations. We have two options. Either she was a shaita or a yisaima. Alma kasavar Allah, Ula. It's pretty clear from this whole discussion that Ula is of the opinion that kol heichadika mammon Malchus, whenever a person commits an act which triggers two obligations, monetary and Malchus. So when mammon and Malchus converge, which one takes over? Which one overshadows the other? Which one does he have to do? Mamayna Mishalem, he has to pay Milka Lucky, he doesn't get Malchus. It's pretty clear from Ula's presentation that it's Mamayn that pushes away the Malchus. How does he know this? How would Ula know this in fact is the case? That when Mammon and Malchus converge, Mammon takes priority. Answer is, we have a precedent to this concept. So a fellow inflicted bodily damage on his friend. So there were many obligations. There's nezek, the actual damage, tsar, pain, ripuy, doctor bills, shevis, loss of wages, boishus, embarrassment. Let's keep in mind that a chayvel b'chaveri perpetuated two things. First of all, a monetary effect, and also there is a ben adam lamalkim. We did an isser. Which isser? The pasuk says that by Bezdin, when they give Malchus, don't add a lash. Pen Yosef. And the Gemara learns from there that every person has an isser to strike at his friend. Bal Tosef, Pen Tosef. So when he strikes at his friend, when he hurts him, he committed two wrongs. There's an isser Bal Tosef, which is a lav, which can theoretically generate Malchus. Number two, there's a monetary claim against him. And what does the Torah tell us? Ma chayvel b'chaver, just like by chayvel b'chaver, dika mammon and Malchus. Mammon and Malchus converge, and what happens? Mammon and Mishalem, he pays up, Milka Lucky, he doesn't get Malchus. Af kol hecha, dika mammon and Malchus, likewise. When Mammon and Malchus converge, Mammon and Mishalem, Milka Lucky, he pays and no Malchus. And the Gemara on Amud Beis will actually show us how we know this halacha, that chayvel b'chaver pays and doesn't get Malchus. The kasha is, ma lo chayvel b'chaver, how could you compare to chayvel? Perhaps the reason why over there we're machmer on him, that he has to actually pay instead of getting Malchus. Shekein chay b'chamisha dvar. There's a chumrah to chayvel. As we explained, there are 5 aspects to the monetary claim against him. There's the nezek, the tsar, the ripoy, the shevas v'boishis. So the point here is like this. One thing's clear. This we had on the top of the Amud. V'kaimlon de'enoi loike u'mishalom. One thing's pretty clear from the whole sugya. You never get double punishment. You don't get malchus and pay. Why? Because the Gemara Amud Beis will actually learn from a pasuk. It says Kidei Rish Asay. You only get punished once per avera. That's a given. The question was which one of the two. Ula maintains if it's money or malchus, you pay. You pay. How do we know? From Chayvel b'Chavera. Mammon and malchus converge, and he has to pay. Well, maybe obligating him to pay is actually more severe of a punishment than just getting malchus. And the fact that you see it happening by Chayvel b'Chavera perhaps isn't the right. Maybe Chayvel is a stricter situation because you see it has all those added elements of responsibility. Chaymisha dvarim. Perhaps it can't be, compared to elsewhere. Even money lakula. On the other hand, let's say we adopt a different approach. Allowing him to get away with payment is perhaps an indication of leniency. The Gemara Bracha says sometimes, for some people, their money is sort of more important than their own life. And for others, their guf is more important than their mammon. That's why the pasuk says, "Va'afta Hashem lekecha, love Hashem b'chol levavcha, b'chol nafshecha, b'chol me'edecha," with your entire life, entire body, and all your money. And the Gemara says, we're covering all different types of personalities. For some, money is more important. For some, their life, their body is more important. So the two ways to look at things. If you say obligating him to pay instead of getting struck is actually a chumrah, well, then I could explain why Chayvel perhaps is more chamer than elsewhere, because it has the Chamisha Dvarim. V'ima money l'kula. On the other hand, if you say, well, allowing him to get away with just a check rather than getting hit by Bezdin, that's actually a kula. But then I could say, well, there's no raya from Chayvel b'Chavera to elsewhere. Maybe Chayvel b'Chavera is actually less strict, less serious, and that's why we allow him to get away by payment only. Why? Shekain hutar miklali bebezdin. Chayvel b'Chavera, striking against a fellow Jew, is sometimes allowed. There's an exception. Bezdin is allowed to do it. So it has that kula, and therefore perhaps it has this kula as well. Pay and get scot-free. So that's not a good raya to our halacha. Ela gamar edim zemimin. Rather, we're going to learn from edim zemimin, which is where Reuben and Shimon get up as edim. They say, look, we know this fellow owes the other fellow money. Another two edim come along and say, what are you talking about? On that day, you were with us. You two were with us in a different location. You could not have possibly witnessed that interaction. So the first pair of edim have now been proven false. They're schemers. Edim zemimin. What is the halacha? First of all, what did they do wrong? Two things. They presented false testimony, for which there is malchus. It's a pasuk in the Torah, one of the Aseres HaDibros. Leisane berecha eid shakar. Don't present false testimony. Number two, the pasuk specifically says, you apply to them whatever they intended to bring about to the other person. They intended on trumping up some sort of fabricated, monetary liability. He owes them $1 million. They have to pay that money. So here we have a monetary obligation converging with malchus. And what happens? The Torah says they pay up. They pay mammon, and they avoid the malchus. So that perhaps provides a precedent to our discussion. When mammon and malchus converge, which one stands higher? The mammon. Ela gamar me'edim zemimin. We'll learn from there. Ma'edim zemimin dika mammon and malchus. Just as by edim zemimin, mammon and malchus come together. And what happens? Mammon and mashalom, we apply mammon. Milka le'laki, we don't apply malchus. Af kol hecha dika mammon and malchus. Likewise elsewhere. If this situation should arise, mammon and malchus should join together. Which one? What do we do? Milka le'laki, he pays and doesn't get malchus. Well, ma'aledim zemimin shkein ein nam tzrichen asra. Perhaps by edim zemimin, The reason why we obligate Mammon, which is at this point in the Gemara, a Chumrah, is because it already has another Chumrah as well. You see, by Eidim Zaymimin, in contrast to other Isurim, which need Hasra, a fellow has to be forewarned right before the act. Look, this is going to bring about grave consequences. Otherwise, he's potter. Eidim Zaymimin does not have that stipulation. The Gemara later will discuss why and how. It's a Chumrah. And perhaps it would have this Chumrah as well. That that they have to pay the Mammon instead of just getting Malchus. On the other hand, if you say paying is actually a Kula, allowing them to get away scot-free just by writing a check, I'll explain that as well. There is another Kula by Eidim Zaymimin. The fact is they didn't actually do anything. They tried, they attempted, they schemed, they spoke, but they didn't actually do an act. So perhaps that's the reason why they get away by just payment. And you can't learn from there to elsewhere. To elsewhere meaning a similar situation where you don't have these elements of Chumrah or Kula. And in that situation you would have Mammon and Malchus together. Who's to say that you can get away with Mammon? Ella Gama Mitarvayu. In classic Gemara fashion, we'll put together both possible sources. Each one on its own didn't work. There was something unique in this. There was something unique in that. So you can't compare, but perhaps by pairing them together, you can make sort of a common denominator. And you could say, Ma Hatzad HaShavash Behen. What's the common denominator between Eidim Zaymimin, where there's Mammon and Malchus, and Mammon is a call of the day. Likewise, Chayvel B'Chaveri, you have Mammon and Malchus, and Mammon perseveres. That's a common denominator. What do they both have in common? The Yikah Mammon and Malchus. Mammon and Malchus converge, and what carries the day? Mammon and Mishalm, he pays. Milka Lucky, no Malchus. Afkol, Hecha. The Yikah Mammon and Malchus. Likewise, anywhere else where we have a similar situation, Mammon and Malchus come together. Which one takes the day? Mammon and Mishalm, Milka Lucky should pay, and no Malchus. Perhaps. No, it doesn't either work. But let's look at it this way. Chayvel b'chaveri and Eidim Zaymimin, they have something in common which is unfound anywhere else. Shekein yesh behen tzad chomer. Keep in mind that although the element found in Chayvel did not match the element found in Eidim Zaymimin, and likewise the Eidim Zaymimin element was unique, unfound by Chayvel, but the fact is they both have something unique. They both have a chumrah, not found elsewhere. Chayvel has a chumrah that he's chayv in chamisha dvar. Eidim and Zaymimin have a chumrah that they're liable even without hasra. On the other hand, if you say, well, the fact that they can pay, and that allows them to be potter from Malchus, that's actually a kula, well then again, shekain, yesh behen tzad hakal. I can attribute that to the fact that each one of these examples, Chayvel b'Chaver, as well as Eidim Zaymimin, each one has something unique within them that makes them kula. And that explains their kula here as well, that they can pay and be potter from Malchus. And that's not found elsewhere. What are the kulas? Let's just recap that again. The kula is Chayvel because in some cases it's mutter to strike, and in Bezdin, Hutter Machlali, and Eidim Zaymimin have a kula. They never committed a mas. So bottom line is, we tried from Chayvel, didn't work. We tried from Eidim Zaymimin on its own, didn't work. We tried to pair them together. We found something that's common to them, not found elsewhere. So we lost all our attempts. Bottom line is, how does Ula know that in fact when Mammon and Malchus converge, you pick Mammon over Malchus? Ella, rather, says the Gemara, Ula, tachas gamar. He has a Gzera Shava, and Rashi says, when it's a Gzera Shava Mufna, which means at least on one side of the Gzera Shava, it's an available pasuk. It's as though it's explicitly stated. You can't confront, you can't challenge the Gzera Shava, even though you perhaps have a reason to differentiate between two cases. Tachas gamar. He applies the Gzera Shava by way of the words tachas, which is Ksiv hacha tachas asher ina. This is the pasuk by the Einus. So he has to pay up because of what he did, because of the painful experience that he put her through. Uksiv hasam ayin tachas ayin, and by the sugya of chayvel b'chayverei, bodily damage inflicted on one's friend, it says, I for I. The lashon tachas is mentioned, and we connect the two things. Ma'asam amayna mishalam milka, just like by ayin tachas ayin. It doesn't mean literally you take an eye for an eye. It means he pays the value of the eye that he damaged. So although we're speaking about a fellow who's really gotten himself into double trouble, financial trouble, as well as the isser of Baal Taisev that he did, which generates Malkus. So Mammon and Malkus converge. What is the halacha? He pays up, and no Malkus. Af kol hecha, dikim amayna o Malkus. Likewise, anywhere else, for instance, over here, Tachas Asher Ina, that's the case of the Einas, right? So he did two wrongs. There is Mammon, and also there is Malkus as well. If she's a relative, etc., right? So Kol Hecha Dika Mamayna Malkus. So both things converge. Which one do we do? Mamayna Meshale, Milka Lelok, we apply the Chi of Mammon, he does not get Malkus. Okay, so bottom line is, according to Ula, certainly you don't apply two things. That's agreed upon by all Shittas. The question is, but which one do we apply? Mammon or Malkus? Conclusion is, Mammon and not Malkus. How do we know? By way of Exer Shava from Chayvel B'Chaver. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. He takes a different approach. He says when we have Mammon and Malkus converging, we apply Malkus and not Mammon. Rabbi Yehuda Amar, Afilu Tema Chaysei Nara. Back to the beginning of the sugya, where we started with a kash, an apparent contradiction. And now, Gemara in Kesubos, Daf Chavtes, we learn Elo Naris Sheish Lein Knas. So Knas is applied as a result of interacting physically with a relative. He pays. How does this fit with the Mishnah in Meseches Makos that applies Malkus for this type of experience? And if there's Malkus, then how could they be Mammon? If there's Mammon, how could they be Malkus? That was the question we dealt with. So Ula's approach was, sure, when there's Mammon and Malkus together, Mammon takes the cake. Why in Meseches Makos is there Malkus? We're speaking about a situation where there is no Mammon, for the reasons we mentioned before. Rabbi Yehuda takes a different approach, because he's coming from a different direction. He's working with the notion that when you have Mammon and Malkus, which one is applied? Malkus is applied. So he'll answer the kasha very differently than Ula. Rabbi Yehuda Amar Afilu Tema Chaysei Nara. Perhaps the Mishnah Meseches Makos is speaking even about a Chaysei Nara. She's of age, she's an adult, in which case typically Knas would apply. Monetary obligations would kick in. So why then? So why then do we say that over there he gets Malkus, and over here in our sugya there's no Malkus, rather there's Mammon? How do you reconcile the two Mishnahs? If this Mishnah by us in Meseches Kesubos and the Mishnah in Meseches Makos are speaking about pretty much the very same circumstance, it's a sister who's potentially of age to trigger the Chi of Mammon of Knas. So why that disparity between the Mishnahs? The answer is, there's another element which must be accounted for. Hasra, warning. Kan shehisrubai. Kan shelei hisrubai. In the Mishnah Meseches Makos, Kan shehisrubai, he was warned against doing what he did. So the Edom forewarned him. If you do this, he'll get Malkus. Since he went ahead with it, he gets Malkus. In our Mishnah, Kan shelei hisrubai, he was never warned. And therefore there's no Malkus. And all you have is Mammon. Al Malkus of Rabbi Yehuda. That's because Rabbi Yehuda holds, Kol Echad Ika Mammon and Malkus. When a situation arises where Mammon and Malkus converge, and he was warned against doing what he did, which case he is deserving of Malkus. Which one do we apply? Mammon or the Malkus? So Ula said Mammon. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, Milka Lucky, he gets Malkus. Mammon like Mishalim rather than paying. So he explains the two Mishnahs differently than Ula. The Mishnah over here in Kesubos, where he has to pay, is speaking he wasn't warned, and therefore he's not deserving of Malkus. The Mishnah in Maseches Makos, where he gets Malkus and doesn't pay, that's because he was warned against doing what he did. And once he gets Malkus, there's no payment. How does Rabbi Yehuda know that in fact, when Malkus and Mammon converge, Malkus is applied and not Mammon? The pasuk there is speaking about a fellow who is punished, in accordance with his offense. And we learn one offense at a time. Mishum risha achas atam machayvai. You could only give him one punishment, sort of for one wrongdoing. You can't double penalize the same person at once. You can't apply double punishment at once. So even though he did one masa, which sort of entails two separate obligations, it triggers two separate chiyuvim, mammon and malchus, pick your choice. So how do we know it's malchus over mammon? Because right next to this pasuk it says, Arbaim yakenu. He gets malchus. So apparently, when there's a choice between mammon and malchus, we choose the malchus. So that's Rabbi Yehuda's makar. The pasuk clearly is telling us when it's a situation which can potentially have a double punishment. Arbaim yakenu, clear words. He gets the malchus over the mammon. Asks the Gemara, but even Rabbi Yehuda agrees to those two cases. Where mammon and malchus converge in either case. Now, what gets applied? Mammon and not malchus. How is this consistent with Rabbi Yehuda's approach? And the Gemara will tell us these are exceptions. A fellow who inflicts bodily damage on his friend. He can mammon and malchus. He did two wrongs. There's mammon, there's malchus. And what happens? He pays and he's pater from malchus. Why? Oh, maybe he'll tell me. This idea of paying for damage is specific to a case where he was not warned. Oh, so there's no malchus. But suppose he was warned, certainly milka lucky. He would certainly get malchus and not pay. Is that so? It's not so. Rabbi Yehuda himself told us not so. Reuven strikes Shimon in a manner where the damage inflicted was less than a pruta, an insignificant amount. In that case, there's no chiyuv mammon, like it. So instead, he gets malchus. It's one or the other, right? Typically, there's chiyuv mammon, so we apply that. But here, there's no mammon to speak about, so he gets malchus. That's Rabbi Yehuda's halacha. Now, hechi dami, what are we speaking about? Idloi ashrubah. He wasn't warned beforehand. It wouldn't work. I might like it. Why would he get malchus at all? Ela pshita the ashrubah. Oh, apparently he was warned. Okay. V'tama the less v'shava pruta. So the reason why he gets malchus in this case, because it was such a minor damage, which doesn't generate chiyuv mammon. Ha is b'shava pruta. Apparently, even Rabbi Yehuda would agree, but typically, if there is a shava pruta in what he did, what would happen? Mamayna meshala milkalei lucky. We would skip the malchus. He would pay up. This is Rabbi Yehuda speaking. And the question is why? Hasn't Rabbi Yehuda just told us that when mammon and malchus converge, he gets malchus? Answer is, this is an exception. Just as Rabbi Yehuda told us elsewhere by Edim Zaymin, which is another example of the same halacha. It is clear from the Torah that Edim Zaymin l'tashlumin that this is an exception, that they pay up, even though technically they're doing something wrong which would generate malchus. No, we ignore the malchus and they pay up kasher zamam, just as they had schemed, just as they had intended on inflicting on their victim. Hachanami here as well, by choyvel bechaveroi beferush ribsa Torah choyvel bechaveroi tashlume. Torah clearly teaches us that this is different. Even though mammon and malchus converge, we do the mammon and not the malchus. And this fits even with Rabbi Yehuda. So choyvel bechaveroi and edim zaymin are two exceptions to the rule. So we made a reference to Rabbi Law, edim zaymin and pay. Where is that Rabbi Law? Aha. On the following Mishnah, Maseches Makos. Me'id and anu esish pleni. Shechayv l'chaverim mesaim zuz. Two of them get up, walk into Bezdin. We would like to testify about Reuben, who owes Shimon 200 zuz. The whole thing was a farce. V'nim tzuzayim, it turns out they were just schemers. It was a fabrication. Loikin and Mishaman. They're punished double. They have to pay for what they tried to inflict on this fellow, and they get malchus for presenting false testimony. This is Shittas Reb Meir. We don't pass like this. This is Shittas Reb Meir. Why? Shalei Hashem. Hashem here is a reference to the pasuk. It's not the same pasuk which generates one. The pasuk which generates one doesn't generate the other. It's two separate sources. It's sort of two separate reasons. Shalei Hashem ha'mevi'an de malchus, mevi'an de tashlumen, because the pasuk, the Shem, which brought them to malchus. Which pasuk is that? Leisane berecha itchaka. Don't offer false testimony. That's not the same pasuk that brings them to payment. That applies the financial penalty. That's the other pasuk. V'asisem loikasher zamam, applied to him just as he intended on inflicting on his friend. Two separate reasons, two separate makayros, two separate psukim. Divid Rabbi Meir. Chachamim ayim no. Kol ha'mashalim in eloikim. If you pay, you don't get malchus. And the question is, v'neima kol ha'loika ene mishalim. I understand you can't be punished twice. We had a pasuk. Kadei rish asay, right? Only one risha. But why do you choose payment over malchus? V'neima, why don't you say it the other way? Kol ha'loika ene mishalim. When you get malchus, you don't pay. Amar Rabbi. So this is Rabbi that we're looking for. Beferush ribsa Torah edim zayim and tashlum. Take a look at the psukim. You will see clearly that Torah teaches us this point, that edim zayim pay rather than get malchus. Heichan ribsa Torah. Where is the Torah? Where's the pasuk that you're referring to? Michti. Let's take a close look at the pasuk. Ksiv v'asisim lekasher zamim lasas la'achiv. Torah tells you to apply on the eid zayim exactly as he wished to inflict on his brother. But then the pasuk continues and elaborates. Ayin ba'ayin, shein b'shein, yad b'yad, regel b'regel. Why we need all those expressions? Short and to the point. Do to him as he wished to do to him. Finished. Yad b'yad lamli. Why do we have to have the extra expressions? Hand for a hand, etc. To tell you that we're speaking primarily about monetary inflictions. Davar anitim yad liyad. That we inflict on the eid zayim financial penalties. So in a case where they try to inflict a financial penalty, a financial obligation, a false financial obligation on the other fellow, we reverse it and we apply it to them. Davar hanitam yad liyad, something which changes hands. And what is that? It's money. Money, umami. So the pasuk clearly tells you that an eid zayim, when faced with a choice of either enduring malchus or mammon, he gets mammon. Choyvel b'chaver nami. Likewise, by choyvel, he's penalized financially. Michtig siv, the pasuk says, kasha asakini asalai. We apply to him just as he applied to the other fellow. Why does the pasuk have to repeat again? Just as he, inflicted on the victim, it gets applied to him as well. We learn from there, Yinasim by means davar sheyesh by nasina, something which can be handed over. Umayni umamin, we're speaking about money. So in conclusion, all agree, even Rabbi Yehuda agrees, that although typically when mammon and malchus converge, malchus takes over, But we have two exceptions. One is Eidim Zoymimin, and one is Chayla B'Chaver, due to the psukim that we just learned. And Ula takes it a step further. By way of Gzera Shava, mentioned on top of the Yom, Tachas Tachas, he takes this concept and applies it throughout the entire Torah. That Mammon takes over the Malchus. Rabbi Yehuda, my time, Ula. So what was wrong with Ula's Gzera Shava? Why did Rabbi Yehuda follow that route? That when Mammon and Malchus converge, Mammon carries the day. Answer is, we can't do that. Im kain be talta. If that were so, then you are going to nullify the pasuk. Don't get involved with your sister. That's a law which should generate Malchus. And you're telling me that he'll just pay up and be pata from Malchus. You're uprooting the pasuk. And therefore, says Rabbi Yehuda, I just couldn't take that route. Rather, he gets Malchus rather than payment. Asks the Gemara, okay, what about Chayil B'Chaver Nami? A fellow strikes his friend. He did two wrongs. Damaged. And he was over on the pasuk, right? Which says, Lo Yosef, you cannot strike a fellow Jew. Well, even according to you, we've just learned the whole sugya. There's only a chiyuv mammon. What about the pasuk? Give me mavatal the pasuk. Chayil B'Chaver Nami, im kain betalta, Lo Yosef pen Yosef. Pasuk says, Lo Yosef pen Yosef. You're not allowed to strike a fellow Jew. So what happens to that pasuk? Are we just going to ignore the pasuk? He'll get away just by paying and no Malchus. Eidim Zayim and Namin. Second example was Eidim Zayim. Im kain betalta v'hoyim benakis in Russia. We apply Mammon and not Malchus. What about the pasuk, which generates Malchus? Ella, rather, you have to say, the pasuk lives for eternity because it's applied in some cases. In some cases, there is Malchus. I'll give you an example of an Eid Zaymin who gets Malchus because of this pasuk, where there is no Mammon. So they try to pretend that this fellow was a chalal, born from a divorcee who had married a kohen, born from a isha who went through chalitza and married a kohen, in which case that son is a chalal, a deficient kohen, a puzzle kohen. Turns out that they were just fabricating it. They get Malchus because of this pasuk. So the pasuk can be applied in this case. Likewise, the pasuk that speaks about, warns against striking a fellow Jew, lest he be deserving the penalty of Malchus. That can be applied in cases where there is no financial obligation, such as the case we mentioned earlier, less than a Shabbat Pruta. You can apply the pasuk. He struck his fellow Jew, but it's small time damage, no pruta involved. In that case, certainly he gets Malchus. Oh, Nami. Back to Achoisei. What was your question? What was Rabbi Yechanan's response? Well, I can't go with Ula because a fellow interacts with his sister and he only has to pay for it. What happens to the pasuk? The law, which generates Malchus. You're just going to ignore that pasuk? Well, we're not ignoring it. In some cases, he'll have to get Malchus. What if she's overage? She's past Nara. She's already begeris. There's no payment at that point. There's no knas. In that case, Malchus would kick in. So we lost our teretz, basically. The question was, why did Rabbi Yehuda not follow Ula's approach? That when Mammon and Malchus converge, you get Mammon. The question was, well, we have psukim that speak about Malchus. The psukim can be applied in cases where there is no Mammon. Answers the Gemara, Elo, Rabbi Yechanan, Hai Tachas Asher Ina Meboilag Dabai. The reason why Rabbi Yechanan did not adopt Ula's approach, because the Gzera Shava of Ula was based on the word Tachas Asher Ina, right? And according to Rabbi Yechanan, the pasuk Tachas Asher Ina is unavailable for this point. And Rashi already explained to us earlier that Ula's Gzera Shava must be a Gzera Shava Mufna, which means that at least one side of the Gzera Shava has to be fully available, unused for anything else. Because otherwise there are all kinds of challenges to the Gzera Shava, right? As we had before. You can't compare it to Eidim Zaymin, has its own, set of unique qualities. You can't compare it to Chayil B'Chaveroi, has its own unique elements. So the Gzir Shava only worked because it was mufna, it was available. When something is available, it's as if the Torah is actually telling it to you. The Torah is telling it to you, you can't challenge, right? So Rabbi Yehuda says, well, it's not available. Hai tachas asherina, this pasuk of tachas asherina is needed for a different halacha and unavailable for this Gzir Shava. And by like Abaye, we need it for Abaye. Abaye tells us, Amakra. How broad is this financial penalty when a fellow gets involved with a nara? So we know about the 50 shkolim, the knas. That's the base knas. But there are more payments involved as well. Amakra tachas asherina. So he pays the basic knas, the 50 kesef, tachas asherina, because of the inui that he generated, the discomfort that he generated within her. This teaches us that aside from the basic penalty resulting from the inui which he inflicted, there is more to it. Embarrassment, loss of value. This teaches us apparently there's more to it. The he has to pay for embarrassment, he has to pay for pgam, which was her market value, which became, lost value. So if this pasuk is coming for that, it's unavailable for the Gzir Shava. Question is, Ula is using this pasuk for the Gzir Shava. How does he know these halachas? That there is a chiyuv to pay boishes and pgam. He learns it from a different pasuk. V'ula nafkele mid Rava, from Rava's source. Dama Rava Amakra, pasuk says, v'nasana isha shechav l'ima. This fellow who involves himself with the girl, he pays lavi anara chamishim kesef. Why does the pasuk have to say ha'isha shecher ima? To tell you, hana shchiva chamishim, the 50 pertains to the benefit that he had by way of that experience. But there's more to it as well. This is the base penalty. But there's more to it. There's embarrassment, there's loss of value, which is really something which isn't necessarily tied to physical interaction with an isha. Rashi says, any type of chayvil b'chaveri generates boishes and pgam. So 50 is for the sheikh ima. But on top of that, you have your standard chiyuvim, boishes and pgam, which apply to any situation where one damages or hurts his fellow Jew. Okay, so conclusion. When a fellow commits an offense which generates two things at once, chiyuv mammon and chiyuv malchus, he certainly doesn't get more than one of the two. Pasuk tells you, kedei rish asay, only one punishment, not both. But which one? According to Ula, mammon. This is learned by way of Gzir Shava from Chayvel v'Chaver, where we know it's mammon and not malchus. According to Rabbi Yehuda, other than Chayvel v'Chaver and Edom Zaymin, where it's mammon, other than those two exceptions, which I learned from Sukkim, typically it's malchus over mammon. All the best to you and much hatzlach.